The Iceberg. Alright, I know what this is. You know what this is. It's been a trend on YouTube for the past couple of months. I probably should have done this sooner because it's not October anymore, so no more spooky hijinks, but whatever. I didn't have the idea until afterwards. The idea came from my friend Fisher, who put this image on my Discord, and it was pretty interesting. I was going to cover it, but there's just a lot of memes and a lot of fake stuff for the sake of being mysterious. So instead, I went on Twitter and I found this image. There's a lot of interesting stuff on this iceberg. It was made by Snowball SB on Twitter. I have no idea who the guy is, but he said he was going to release a video on October 31st. I checked his channel. It's not there. I want to do it because it looks really awesome, and I just really want to check it out. So today, we'll be looking at the Thomas & Friends iceberg. Thomas and the UK trip. Hirake Pokihi is a Japanese show that aired in 1973. There's a video game, there's merch, it's a whole franchise, but what does it have to do with Thomas? Well, in 1991, they had a special where the characters went down to England, met a real-life Sir Topham Hatt, walked into a random-ass building, and then were magically transported to the island of Sodor, where they met Thomas. Well, that was a lot to take in. But the coolest thing about all of this is that since it was done during the production of Season 3, there's a lot of raw footage that was shot specifically for this. The whole thing is on YouTube, so after this video, if you want to give it a watch, it's here. Rightfully so, this is high on the list. Thomas and the Magic Railroad Director's Cut is probably one of the most well-known children's lost media out there. In development, the movie had undergone various changes, such as voice actors, characters being cut, and even a new narrator to tell the entire story. Perhaps the biggest loss was the actor of Doug Lennox, who played P.T. Boomer, a villain that was cut from the movie for being, quote-unquote, too scary. Oh, okay. So that guy's scary, but this giant metal train with a claw is perfectly fine. Cool. I could go on and on about everything that was changed and all the drama behind it. It really deserves its own video, which is why I'm saying you should probably check out Nick Starwin's video on it. It's a really nice one. The sad story of Henry Misconception. Every TV show needs to have a pilot. It's how they get their show to air. Long before production on the actual show started, there was this, The Sad Story of Henry pilot. It aired on BBC. Unfortunately, it was during a time where most people weren't recording their televisions, so this pilot is lost. Some things that we know is that it was performed live, the models were more primitive than the ones we've seen in the television show, and during production, a train fell off the rails, and they had to pick it back up. Sadly enough, this one will probably be lost to time. Considering the time frame it came out and the fact that it was recorded live, I don't think it's going to turn up anytime soon, but who knows, crazier things have happened in this fandom. As for the misconception part of this iceberg entry, I have no idea. The Missing Coach episode. The Missing Coach was supposed to be a Season 2 episode, however the plot was thought way too convoluted for kids. The episode was to take place with a three-part structure. These 3 episodes would introduce the characters of Donald and Douglas to audiences. It was to start with the Missing Coach, then Break Van, and then the Deputation. What happened instead is that footage from the Missing Coach was spliced and used in both Break Van and the previous episode, Better Late Than Never. This resulted in both the most boring episode in Thomas & Friends history, which I swear has a negative aura around it, and a rushed introduction to Donald and Douglas. Will we ever find this episode? Only time will tell. Drayton Manor. For my understanding, the reason why this is on this list is this. Drayton Manor is known infamously for its mistreatment of the Thomas & Friends props. It's essentially a model graveyard. Whether you're a fan of the show or just like preservation, it will never not break my heart to see what this company has done to these pieces of history. Thankfully, there are people in the world that have some of the models and are preserving them very well. Shoutouts to Thomas Tank Merch on Twitter. Really, it's amazing to see this. The last thing on this list is P.T. Boomer, who I mentioned when I was talking about the Thomas and the Magic Railroad Director's Cut. So, with that, we finished the first layer of the Thomas & Friends iceberg. Alright, it's time to embark on deeper waters. Thomas and Tuggs live in the same universe. This entry refers to the sister show of Thomas and Friends, Tuggs. There's never been any confirmation about this. I think it's unlikely. The only thing that ties these two franchises together is that they were both directed by David Mitton. Toby stolen from Drayden Manor. In 2011, the Toby prop was stolen from Drayden Manor. As far as I know, the criminal has never been found. The hand in Thomas and the Trucks. This entry refers to this clip. That is all. The Sad Story of Henry, 1953. I already covered this, so if the first entry I said wrong, please comment so I know. The Down the Mine pilot. The Down the Mine pilot was the actual TV show pilot. It too is lost, but we do have this one clip from it. Notice how in this scene from Down the Mine, Thomas's model is extremely different from the one we know and love. He's missing some yellow lining, the wheel arc doesn't have its red stripe, the running board is less detailed, and the model is overall longer. Lady's life-size model. Restore the Magic held a petition to restore the lady prop from Magic Railroad to its original state. They scammed people for over $6,000. Flying Scotsman and Tender Engines. In the third series episode Tender Engines, the Flying Scotsman was supposed to appear. However, they didn't have the budget to finish the model, and only the two tenders did. Stepney in Drayden Manor. This is reportedly the last photo taken of Stepney in Drayden Manor. He vanished without a trace, and nobody knows why.
This engine's not for scrapping!
Gordon Goes Foreign episode. Gordon Goes Foreign is a Railway series story that was going to be adapted into the TV show, but it never happened. We have a storyboard for it, which tells us that the Henry model was going to be turned into Big City Engine. I'm pretty sure the reason they didn't make this episode is because of budget cuts. They would have had to make a whole set based on London. And with that, Layer 2 is done. As we dive deeper into Layer 3, the mysteries are going to get more and more obscure. Thomas the Tank Engine, 1976. Okay, so get this. After the Sad Story of Henry pilot, but before the Down the Mine pilot, there was another pilot for a show. This one, however, being animated instead of using models. Andrew Lloyd Webber created this pilot, but it never came to fruition. The animation style was going to be similar to Ivor the Engine, whoever remembers that show. And these two photos I showed you here are the only two known to exist. Penis joke in A Scarf for Percy. Oh yeah, I've been waiting to talk about this one. Basically, this entry comes from the scene where Percy roasts the fuck out of Henry's dick!
Rubbish, Percy, said Henry. Engines don't wear scarves. Engines with proper funnels do, replied Percy. You've only got a small one.
Getting back on track here, we have the deleted scene from Big World, Big Adventures. I'm pretty sure they cut this scene for being too racist. I don't know. It's Big World, Big Adventures. You can find it on YouTube. It's only a few seconds long. Molly's prototype faces. Unlike most engines in the show, Molly's faces don't fit all the way around her smoke box. However, the prototype Molly has faces just as big as the other engines. This is apparently due to the fact that the people who were making these faces were very inexperienced and didn't really know how to make them right. Interestingly enough, on all of the official merchandise and promotional pictures of Molly, she wears these faces. Very odd. Thomas and the Magic Railroad takes place during Season 2. This is a fan theory that explains a couple of things, like the appearance of the viaduct and why only Season 1 characters appear. Hell, maybe it even ties in how Mr. Conductor is played by the first two narrators of the series. The more you look into the theory, the more faulty it gets, but it is some pretty fun food for thought. I've seen people talk about how the reason why Edward isn't in the movie is because he's in the works after the events of Edward's exploit. Thomas and the Stinky Cheese CGI testing. It seemed like the series didn't start experimenting with CGI until Season 12, and then made the full transition in Season 13. On the contrary, there's reason to believe that CGI testing took place in Season 11 as well. It's unknown why they scrapped this, and instead of going back to full CGI immediately in Season 12, they only animated the faces. Even more evidence for this testing is that there are storyboards for Season 11 episodes like Don't Be a Silly Billy. They were drawn in the same way that storyboards for animated things in Season 12 would act as well. I just want to say that, just in case we don't get to talk about it while we're going through the Iceberg, Season 12 has such a weird vibe to it. It's so, especially production images for this thing. Jesus Christ, it's so unnerving. Alright, that's another layer down. I hope you guys are learning some new things that you didn't know before. But now, we get even deeper. Fergus's damaged model after Bill, Ben, and Fergus. In this episode, Fergus gets covered in rocks. Afterwards, his model looks all dirty and damaged. Reportedly, his flywheel stopped working. Did they ever repair him? This was the last time we saw Fergus. What did they do with him? Where did he go? Vickerstown tramway engines. In Vickerstown, there are tramways, but no engines to run on them. In concept art of the Great Race, you can see them, but they just look like empty husks. Elderly Thomas face. During the recording of Thomas and the Magic Railroad, a face was sculpted and put onto the Thomas prop. It was to be played as a prank, as when the cameraman looked into the camera, he saw this face and jumped at its eerie, creepy, scary demeanor. Apparently, it was sculpted after David Mitton himself. Edward in Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Edward isn't in Thomas and the Magic Railroad, and he never was. Even in leaked early scripts of the movie, he was never there. The producer, Phil Farrell, has gone on to say this about Edward, and why he wasn't included. The Austerity Engine. An engine that was not seen or named in the Railway series, only mentioned. There is no real records on this engine. Barry the Rescue Engine. Barry was a cancelled character from the Railway series. We don't know what he looks like, but we do know his basis. The reason he was cancelled was because kids were saying they wanted to see more of Thomas and his friends instead of more new characters. Barry will most likely never be seen again. He is lost to time now. Splatter and Dodge in Day of the Diesels, and Duke in Kevin the Steamy. I grouped these two entries together because they both involve old characters returning and then getting dropped from the episode they were going to return in. Interestingly enough, I didn't even know that this storyboard existed until I was researching. Look, there's Duke in CGI, but he never made it. Bertram is Smudger. Smudger was an engine who was very troublesome. So troublesome, in fact, they stripped away his engine rights and turned him into a generator. Bertram, on the other hand, is just Duke's model with Smudger's face on it. His total screen time in the entire show is 19 seconds. Yes, I counted. The Black Pencil in Thomas and the Magic Railroad. I don't really think this one should be that far down on the iceberg. It's a little obvious once you know it. Just a random pencil, right? Annie and Clarabelle with gray faces. Most coaches, such as Annie and Clarabelle, have their faces painted onto them. However, in Season 12, there's concept art of this monstrosity. I am very glad we didn't receive this. The Adventures of Thomas film. This film was a completely different take on Thomas. It would star around a boy who just got drafted into World War II. He had to move from his dad, and he was transported to the island of Sodor. The movie was set to release in 2010, then pushed back to 2013, and it never came out. Splatter and Dodge in The Great Race. They were considered, but ultimately dropped. Ladies' prototype faces. Ladies' old faces looked entirely different. That's just about it, but they do look very off. Thomas in the scrapped Blur Studios Lego movie. A Lego Duplo Thomas appears on this promo art for a cancelled Lego movie in 2012. Not much more to say here that relates to Thomas. Stanley's Shed. Stanley's Shed was modeled for The Great Discovery, however it never made an appearance. Scrapped Jack and the Pack episodes. Jack and the Sodor Construction Company was a spin-off ship It was going to have 26 episodes, but only 13 were made because of budget cuts. With all these cancelled episodes, one has to ask, how far into production were these episodes? Did they make anything for them? Is there something that we haven't seen yet? The Thomas and Friends Institute of Innovation. A film produced by Studio Hansa between 2013 and 2014. Apparently, this mysterious video is created to promote marketing of the Thomas and Friends brand. The film has never been seen by the general public. There are clips out there, but not the full thing. From these clips, we can gather that an apocalypse, a world-ending catastrophe took place. The only surviving species? Trains and cockroaches. What does this mean? What happened? Why Thomas? Are cockroaches and trains similar in skeletal structure? Why does Thomas look so glum here? Where are Percy and James? What else is out there that we haven't seen? Do trains have their own code of laws? Survive in this dystopian world?
What is the Institute of Innovation?
Victor's TV series model. Before it was confirmed that Hero of the Rails would be a full CGI movie, there was one face mask of Victor made. The same can be said for Hero, however there are more than one face masks. Although it is not on this iceberg, I thought I should just throw this in as well. Kevin has a face mask too. Hero of the Rails Model Series Special. We may as well group this in with the last two entries. Searching around, I couldn't find anything relating to this besides the two facts that I already stated. Tasha Stone. Tasha is Burnett Stone's late wife. She does not make an appearance in the original cut of the movie. However, in the director's cut, there's a deleted scene of her dancing with Burnett. Because she makes no appearance in the final version of the movie, we don't know the actress that plays her. This also relates to our next entry, unused Thomas and the Magic Railroad songs. In said scene, a song called He Loves, She Loves would have been playing. The song is not anywhere in the original movie or on the soundtrack. Suicide nod in The Great Race. One of the main themes of The Great Race is Thomas having his little identity crisis. In the midst of his song, he comments about how he wants someone to break him and take him apart and start over. You could see this as a reference to suicide, or you could just see this as it's a good moral to teach kids to be who they are. Look out for the train. In some early versions of Thomas and the Trucks, an audio error can be heard. You can hear a crew worker say, "Look out for the train." Take a listen.
Look out for the train.
That was completely unedited. I have no idea why that happened or why the audio cut out when it did. If I had to compare it to anything, there's this one Digimon episode where a random disembodied voice screams this.
Over here! I'm coming!
Well, so much.
Nobody knows who this kid is or how they missed something like that. These two instances just reminded me of each other, so I decided to put it in here. Anyway, that seems to be the end of the iceberg. Let us resurface. And that's that. Entirely different video than what I normally do here on Trainbrain 06, but I'm glad that you guys stuck to the end anyway. Please tell me if there's anything wrong with what I said, if I misconstrued anything, if I did anything wrong, you tell me in the comments, do that, do it please. And then I'll write a little pinned comment, say, here's what I did wrong. Anyway, see you again, do the thing, bye, happy Halloween, it's Christmas now. Wait, people really think they reference suicide? Thomas, what the hell, what the